Okay, for this video, I want to talk to you a little bit about what bicep tendonitis is, and then a very common mistake that people make, especially when doing bicep curls, that tends to lead to bicep tendonitis. So the bicep, we all know, is the muscle here in front of the arm, and it's one of the primary, one of three muscles that do mostly elbow flexion. Now, what's interesting about the bicep is that it crosses two joints. It first crosses the elbow joint here in the front, and that's what we think of it as. That's what flexes my elbow. But then it comes up, and this is where the word bi comes from. It has two heads that come up and cross the shoulder joint. The first one is the long head of the bicep. That's the one where you tend to get bicep tendonitis in, and that comes up and goes into the shoulder joint and attaches to the labrum, which is around the socket part of the shoulder. The short head comes up and attaches to the coracoid, which is part of your shoulder blade. So the long head of the bicep, because it crosses the shoulder joint, one of the things that can happen to it is that instead of it just being stabilized there in the shoulder, it acts as a stabilizer, if that makes sense. So your shoulder blade should be held solid by your back muscles so that the long head has a nice firm attachment, right? Something that's solid so that then it can act to bend the elbow and sometimes flex overhead, do some shoulder flexion like this, okay? So one of the ways that this can get irritated, and this is what I'm showing you here, is this is the long head of the bicep that comes up through the shoulder and is kind of like a little noodle like that. It can be fairly thin, is that if this gets overworked as a way of moving the arm as opposed to just helping to as an anchor point, then this tendon here gets a little bit swollen and gets irritated. That's the tendonitis. And then it can actually even turn into a tendinosis where it's not a real big groove that it sits in, and it can get thickened and start to deteriorate. And that could actually even lead to this tendon tearing, okay? So one of the ways that this gets irritated is when people do bicep curls incorrectly. So let's say that you're doing some bicep curls. A lot of times people do them with two weights. What I see a lot of is that people will sort of hold the weights in close and just kind of go up and down here like this, all right? And this is sort of the motion that we see. And what you'll see with this, and I'll just put one of these down, is that in this position, if I'm flexing, my shoulder is forward, and then the angle of pull is sort of like straight down, right? And so the angle of pull actually goes straight up into the shoulder here in this position. So because my shoulder's forward, my back isn't contracted, and then that bicep tendon is working in a way that it's not supposed to, and that tends to lead to some irritation. And I mean, another way this happens is like when people get tired and they tend to just sort of like start rocking and doing this, and there's just a little bit of motion there, okay? So the way to correct this, the way to do bicep curls correctly so that you're not putting as much pressure on that bicep tendon, or let's say you do have bicep tendonitis now and you're wondering, how do I get rid of it? And you're someone who works out with bicep curls. First thing I want you to do is make sure that you're really standing up straight and squeezing your shoulder blade back. You're locking in the shoulder blade so that the bicep has a nice strong base of support to connect to. When you do that, you'll see it automatically starts to bring your elbow forward, and that's what you want. You want to bring your elbow forward to this position, not back here, but forward, okay? So then what that looks like is more like this. It's more like your shoulder blades are locked back, elbows forward, and then you're lifting out here. And what you'll find is you'll get a lot more bicep engagement. You'll feel it a lot more than in here doing this sort of thing, okay? Now, just like a lot of exercises, when you're doing it the right way, it actually becomes a little bit harder. So you might need to go down in weight, right? But that's okay. You're not here to, hopefully not just to see how much weight you can lift, but actually to do the exercises right. So squeeze those shoulder blades back, bring the elbows forward, palms up, just in this nice, even motion. just like this. So if you're having bicep tendonitis and you do bicep curls, make sure you do them correctly like the way I just showed you. And then generally speaking, work on, and if you look up rotator cuff exercises, even here on our channel, and upper back exercises to work on building more upper back strength and flexibility in the shoulder, that will also help. So hopefully this helps you if you have bicep tendonitis. Do your bicep curls correctly, and not only will help you actually get bigger biceps, you won't get bicep tendonitis either. If you have any questions, let us know.